Hello students, so we will start with the composite materials today. That is the last part that is left in the engineering materials in module 4, right? So we have started with the introduction, then we have finished ferrous materials, and then we have finished non-ferrous materials, right? So now, and then also we have finished non-metals in the previous class, polymers and other non-metals. So now today we are continuing with that. So this is composite material. So what is a composite material? Okay, there are two things actually. One is called composite material, another one is called as an alloy. So we have already studied what an alloy is, right, in the previous case. So for example, alloys of iron, alloys of copper, that is bronze and brass are two alloys of copper, isn't it? So in that case, how is an alloy different from composite? So in alloy also we have mixtures of different materials, right? For example, copper and zinc, if you put together you get an alloy. So that means two things are put together. So if I try to define composite also, here also we will have two different materials or two or more materials generally which are mixed together and formed a single material, and then we call it as composite. Now the question is, how do we differentiate between an alloy and a composite? Okay. So in that case, alloy is a metallurgical mixing of the components of materials. That means they are mixed in the microstructure itself. So that means when we have a different material, like let's say brass or bronze, it is not possible for us to separate how much amount of zinc is present in that, how much amount of copper is present in that. They are metallurgically mixed. So then we call that as an alloy. It totally becomes a new compound or a new material, right? But in the case of composite material, what we do is we have one part which is called as matrix, and there is another part which is called as reinforcement. Okay, they have their individual existence. We mix the matrix with the reinforcement, and they will not metallurgically mix. Reinforcement will be separate, matrix will be separate, but they are bind together and they act as a single component. Okay, so we can use the properties of both reinforcement as well as matrix. For example, one beautiful example of composite material could be RCC, reinforced concrete, right? So in this what happens is, if you have seen, the concrete as well as the steel bars are put together, isn't it? You have seen this. This is the most common observation you would make when we go with a lot of construction work going on. So you would generally see this. The buildings being constructed, you can see there is a concrete structure, and on top of that you have the steel rods. Now that is an example for composite, right? Even though they are put together, they are acting as a single unit. The individual steel bars are present inside and the concrete is also present, right? They're two different components, but they're put together and made as a single component for construction purpose. So that is an example for composite, where steel has its own existence, concrete has its own existence, isn't it? So that's what you mean by a composite material. So if we take the definition, a composite material can be defined as a combination of two or more constituent materials having different physical or chemical properties and which remain separate and distinct on a microscopic level within the finished structure. Okay, now I hope you understood this definition. So if I directly put the definition first, you would have not understood, but now when you read this definition, I think it makes a sense for you, right? A composite material is defined as a combination of two or more constituent materials having different physical and chemical properties which remains separate and distinct on a microscopic level within the finished structure. So finished structure will be there, but they will remain different within the component itself, and that is what we define as a composite material. Okay. So composite materials are basically made up of two things. One is called as a matrix and the other one is called as reinforcement. So we have a major binder which we call it as a matrix element, into which we are adding something else, then that is called as a reinforcement. So for example, they have not mentioned any particular thing here. It's mentioned in the yellow colored portion is the matrix, and then the blue colored one is a reinforcement. So when you place the reinforcement in the matrix, and that becomes a composite. So there are several varieties of composites here, right? So for example, the matrix can be a metal, reinforcement can be a polymer. Okay, matrix can be a metal one, reinforcement can be a polymer, which will be put in the matrix and they will work together as a composite. Or it can be the reverse, matrix can be a polymer and the reinforcement can be a metal, then it still works as a composite. So different things are there. It can be a glass reinforced, or a metal matrix, or fiber reinforcement. So different things can be put together and made into a composite material. Okay, so let's see what are the different ways in which we can or different varieties in which composites are existing. Okay, so classification of composite material. So with respect to matrix, okay, based on the matrix, they are classified into PMC, MMC and CMC. What does that mean? PMC means polymer matrix composite. That means it is identified based on the matrix material. So in PMCs, the matrix material is always a polymer. Next one, metal matrix composites. That means in these kind of composites, matrix material is always a metal. And ceramic matrix composites. So in this case, the matrix material is always a ceramic. It can have a different reinforcement, ceramic matrix with a metal reinforcement, or a polymer reinforcement, or any other fibers reinforcement. Okay. Next one, next category or next classification is with respect to reinforcement material. Okay. So in the case of reinforcement material, it can be fiber reinforced composites, particulate reinforced composites, or laminated composites. Now that means the reinforcement can be fiber, reinforcement can be particulate matters, powders, or it can be laminated. Laminated means what? It will be like a sheets. So one will be pasted over the other, layer by layer. If you are placing it, we call it as laminations or laminated composites. Okay. So under composite materials, we have the following categories, classified under two categories. One is based on the matrix material, and second one, it is based on the reinforcement material. So under matrix material we have polymer, metal and ceramic, and under reinforcement material we have fiber, particulate and laminated. So we will see one by one. Okay. So first one is polymer matrix composites. So in polymer matrix composites, as I have already told you in the classification, the matrix is always polymer and the reinforcement can be anything. Okay, but the matrix element will be always a polymer in case of polymer matrix composite. So example is given here. A matrix material is polymer resin. Okay, that is in yellow colored portion what is shown in the sketch below. It can be a thermoplastic. The reinforcement material will be usually in the form of fibers. Okay, so you can see that the fiber material can be anything. It can be a metal, it can be a polymer, it can be a graphite. Examples are given here: glass, carbon, graphite, boron, etc. But they will be fibers, long strands of fibers usually. So when you have fibers individually inserted into the matrix material, the whole component will become a polymer matrix composite. Okay, so we will see the application of these polymers in the later stage. First we will just go to each one of the polymers and see what it means. I hope you understood this part, right? So composite material basically consists of a matrix and a reinforcement. So in this polymer matrix composite, the matrix material is polymer and the reinforcement material is usually in the form of fibers. Okay. So there are two kinds of polymer material. I have already done this, so I will not go through this again. Polymer material, which is commonly, which is the matrix material in this case, there are two types: thermoplastics and thermosets. Right? We have already studied what is thermoplastics and what is thermosetting plastic. Right? Okay. So I will not again go through what is thermoplastics and what is thermosets here. So polymer make ideal materials as they are very light in weight, they are abrasion and chemical resistant, and can process easily and can be processed easily and possess other desirable mechanical properties. Right. So today if you see, most of the metals which were used earlier are being replaced by composites because of several advantages it has. Okay, anyways, we will talk to the advantages part in the later stage. So now I will just go through whatever is given here. So polymer composites are used for manufacturing of secondary load-bearing aerospace structures and automobile parts, brakes, clutch linings, body panels, etc. Okay, so these are some of the applications of polymer composites. Okay, so metal matrix composites. I think when you read the name itself, you can make out what is the meaning of metal matrix composite. That means in this case, the matrix material matrix is a metal. In polymer matrix composite, the matrix material was polymer. So in metal matrix composite, obviously the matrix material will be a metal. Okay, and reinforcement can be either ceramic or metal or any other fibers. Okay, so as it says, matrix will be metal or any alloy. Example can be anything. It can be titanium, aluminium or magnesium or any other metal matrix. Reinforcement materials will be generally in the form of either fibers or in the form of particulates. Okay, so it can be ceramic powder or ceramic fibers or any metal fibers. Okay, properties of these composites are high strength, high toughness and stiffness, low coefficient of thermal expansion, high density, high melting point, etc. Metal matrix composites are used for manufacturing automotive parts like piston, push rods, braking components, turbine engine components, blades, shafts, etc. Okay, so you can see, as I mentioned earlier also, in earlier days most of the things we are using metals and alloys, but they do have a lot of problems. One is it has more density, high weight, right? The weight will be more. Then the corrosion property is less, corrosion resistance is less. So all these drawbacks can overcome by these composite materials. So next one is ceramic matrix composites. So in this case, the matrix material is ceramics and reinforcement can usually be any form of fibers. So composites are classified as ceramic matrix composites when the matrix is made from a ceramic materials. So ceramic materials are silicon carbide, aluminum oxide, etc. The reinforcement material is usually in the form of fibers and is also made from a ceramic material like similar material, or it can be any other materials also. Okay. The properties of these materials are high melting point, good corrosion resistance, stability at elevated temperatures and high compressive strength. So these are the properties of ceramic material composite. So basically matrix is ceramic here, so it will have more properties of the ceramics like good corrosion resistance, stability at higher temperature, high compressive strength, etc. It is used to make cutting tool inserts, gas turbine components, wear resistant parts in aerospace and military applications. So individually, one by one, applications are given. Later on we'll go to the combined applications of all these composite materials. Okay, so we are finished with the classification and explanation of matrix composites based on matrix, polymer matrix, metal matrix and ceramic matrix. Now we will see the second part, that is classification based on reinforcement. So based on the reinforcement, the first one is fiber reinforced composites. Okay, so composites are classified as fiber reinforced composite when the reinforcement added are in the form of fibers. Okay, so matrix can be anything, but the reinforcement will be always in the form of fibers. So such kind of composites are called as fiber reinforced composites. Okay, so fiber is a thin, slender elongated thread-like structures characterized by length and its diameters. Okay, so that is what you call as fibers, the long strands which are usually having very less thickness or very thin diameter, and the length will be considerably more. The most common types of fibers used are glass fibers, carbon fibers, and aramid fibers. So these are the materials which are generally used in the form of fibers. So as I mentioned earlier, the diameter of these fibers are very small. The diameter of this fiber ranges from 0.0001 inch to 0.0005 inch depending upon the material. So as you can see here, the fibers means it's not very thick, it doesn't have usually thickness. It's a very small. You can imagine 0.001 inch to 0.005 inches of diameter it has. Okay, so there are three types of fibers actually. The fiber reinforced composites can be further divided into continuous fibers and discontinuous fibers. Okay, so some of the fibers can be arranged as continuous, some of them are discontinuous. As you can see in the sketch 1, they are called as continuous fibers. So what do you mean by this continuous fibers? Continuous fiber means they are long fibers and they are arranged in an orderly pattern. Okay, so it can be number of rows and number of columns evenly they are arranged. They are called as continuous fibers and they are also long. So what do you mean by discontinuous fibers? Discontinuous fibers means the fibers will be again placed in the order, but they are not continuous in nature. Okay, so as you can see the difference in the first sketch and the second sketch, they are placed straight, but they are not placed one after the other immediately. Okay, they are discontinuous in nature. It can be the length could be lesser and placed at different places, not very close to each other. Third one is discontinuous and randomly oriented. Okay, so actually second one and third one both are discontinuous only, but in the sketch B it is discontinuous, but it is properly oriented in rows as well as in columns, but they are not continuous, they are discontinuous. But in the third case they are discontinuous as well as they are randomly placed. As you can see, there is no particular order there. It's been randomly put, the fibers in the matrix. Okay, so that is called as discontinuous and random oriented. So depending on how you arrange the fibers, the property of the material also can change when tested. We will know that the continuous fibers may have, if the same fiber is used in these different orientations, there may be a possibility that the continuous fiber have a different set of properties, discontinuous fiber can have a different properties, and randomly oriented fibers can have different properties. That can be known only by testing for its strength, different types of composites, for testing its tensile strength, compressive strength, bending strength. So when we test that, we will know the results. What happens if we arrange these fibers continuously, discontinuous and in random. Okay, so next one is particulate composites. So as the name itself suggests, particulates means they are not fibers, they are small particles. Okay, the same materials, instead of keeping it as fibers, we are making the powders of that, and there we are mixing it with the matrix material. So that type of reinforcement is called as particulates. So in particulate composites, the reinforcement consists of small metallic or ceramic particles which are embedded in the matrix. Okay, the particles can be in the form of spherical, cubic, tetrahedron, platelet, or any irregular shape. So it can be having a specific shape also in the powdered form or in the small this form. It can be spherical in nature, it can be cubic, it can be any irregular shape in nature. Okay, very small particles which are less than 0.25 micron in diameter. So you can imagine it's almost completely powdered form. So the diameter is 0.25 micron, which is very small, isn't it? So it's not having fibers, it's a powdered form. That's why it's called as particulate composites. Okay. Particulate composites have advantages such as improved strength, increased operating temperatures, and oxidation resistance. Okay, it is used in manufacturing of automotive body panels, bumpers, dashboards, brakes, pistons, and cutting tools. So if you just go through the application of composite materials, you would realize that most of the application are related to automotive body parts, right? So most of the things, not only body parts, automotive parts in general. So if you could see, most of the composite materials, they have most of their application in terms of automobile parts. So that is, they have been replacing from metals to composites. Okay, so we have the last one that is called as laminated composites. So what do you mean by lamination or laminated materials? That means if you place one layer and on top of that you place another layer and one more layer, and you keep building materials layer by layer, we call that as laminates. Okay, so there's one common example of laminated composites that we use more often in our furnitures or in making tables or anything. So that is plywood, right? If you see the cross section of plywood, it is not a single material, right? It is actually layered by layer and glued, and next layer is placed on top of that, and another layer is placed on top of that, and multiple layers are built, and then what we get, what we call as plywoods, right? So plywood is a beautiful example for laminated composites. Okay, so laminated composites are composed of layers of materials which are held together by a matrix. Laminated composites can be made from layers of similar or dissimilar metals. Okay, this is also important. It need not be the similar material. It can be placed one layer of one material, next layer could be one more, and another layer. So different, it can be similar materials or dissimilar materials. The best example of this composite material is plywood, as I told you. Best example is plywood, which are glued together with adjacent plies having their own grain at right angles to each other for greatest strength, as shown in the figure. So it is used for making plywoods, wear pads, wear rings, pipes, vehicle windshields, etc. Okay, so you can see here below the sketch, they have shown the different plies. They have kept layer by layer, but you can see also the orientation. It is not kept in the same orientation. If the first layer is kept in one of the axis, the next one is kept 90 degrees to it. So you can refer that in the sketch here, right? So one layer is placed like this, the second layer is kept at an angle of 90 degrees, the third layer is again kept in the first one. So alternatively it's changing 90 degrees. So that means when you place it like that, the strength will increase further. Okay, so as I've told you, advantages of composite materials in general. The most of the composite materials are light in weight and then metal or alloys. So that is what I've told you. One of the important advantages of having composite materials is that they are light in weight, but they will match with the strength of the metals, and that is why we are able to replace it. So when the reduction in weight takes place, there is a lot of saving, right? Because when the weight reduces, there will be less amount. That's why it's used in automobile parts, as I've told you. Automobile parts as well as in aircraft parts. The replacement of metals by composites is because of this nature of composites. That is, it is having light weight but high strength. So you can see nowadays, I'm just giving an example. Nowadays, if you just see the two-wheelers, most of the body parts of the two-wheelers are fibers. We generally say it is fiber, which is nothing but composites, right? Earlier days, the olden vehicles, most of the things were pure metals or alloys. Because of that, weight was more. But now what they are doing is they are trying to replace all the metal parts by composites. Of course, it has its own advantages as well as disadvantages also, right? But the advantages seems to be more. Now that's why most of the body parts are being built by composites. Okay, most of the composites have uniform distribution of weight. Most of the composites have high strength to weight ratio. This is exactly the point I mentioned in the first one also. It has high strength to weight ratio. That means when you take the ratio of strength by weight, it is more. It is having lesser weight but more strength. Okay, same thing, composites will have high stiffness to weight ratios. Composites are corrosion resistance and wear resistance. This is another important property. They don't get rusted or don't get corroded. So that is why we can use them. They are also non-magnetic in nature, and composites are having longer life compared to steel or aluminium. Okay, that's because they are very good resistance to corrosion, as well as they are non-magnetic in nature, and they also have longer life expectancy compared to steel or aluminium. Okay, disadvantages. So composites will also have certain disadvantages. One of the disadvantages is that composite materials are more brittle than metals. Okay, high cost of raw materials and fabrication. So fabrication cost is more to composites compared to that of metals. Reusing and disposal is a problem. Okay, so it is not easy to recycle composites. Plus, it as you can see, if you generally, again I'm giving you the vehicle examples only. So if there is a crack in case of the body part, there is no possibility to repair it. That has to be discarded and a new part has to be inserted. But when it is metal, that won't be the case. The metals, if there is any dent on that can be removed. Okay, it can be reoperated and it can be removed. But if it is a composite material, if there is a tear in that, or if it cuts, then that has to be replaced. And it is not possible to repair that part, and that has to be thrown. It has to be disposed and you have to insert a new one. So that becomes a problem. Reusing that and disposal of this composite will be a problem. Okay, composites have maintenance and repair problem. This is what I mentioned in the previous point also. It's difficult to repair it because once the matrix is cut, then it is difficult. When the composite is broken, it's difficult to repair it. There's no particular proper technology to do that. Okay, so these are some of the disadvantages of composites. They are brittle in nature. The cost of fabrication seems to be high. Reusing and disposal is difficult. Repairing and maintenance is also a problem. Okay, these are some of the disadvantages of composite materials. Okay, now coming to the application of composite material. Actually, I have been talking about the application only throughout the topic, but now we'll see some specific application of composite materials. First one is in aircraft. It is used to make parts of the aeroplanes like rotor blades, fins, rudders, wing body, fuel tanks, propeller blades, helicopter frames, canopies, randoms, fairings, engine cowlings, landing gear doors, floor panels, fan ducts, interior parts like overhead bins, sidewall panels, ceiling partitions, etc. So literally you can write anything about this. So every part is being replaced by composite materials now. And why it's so much important in aircraft, I have told you this earlier also, because reduction in weight becomes more important in the case of aircrafts. Right, the weight, lesser the weight, it will be easier for the aircraft. Lesser fuel consumption can be easily can be taken off because it's going against the gravity, isn't it? So it should not be having any compromise with the strength. It has to have the same strength or even better strength, but the weight reduction should be more. Okay, next is used in automobiles, used in manufacturing of vehicle parts like combustion engine components, fuel tanks, disc brakes, brake parts, clutch plates, drive shaft components, steering wheels, bumpers, doors, roof linings, radiator tanks and supports, valves, guides, etc. So in the automobiles also you can say majority of the parts now are being made of composite materials. So even if you have no much idea about the application, you can just write some of the major automobile parts and aircraft parts that are used as composite materials. Okay, so that completes the composite material parts. Now we have to come to one more section that is called as smart materials. Okay, so what is a smart materials and why is it called smart? So smart material is also called an intelligent or responsive material that are designed there are design materials that have one or more properties that can be significantly changed in a controlled fashion by external stimuli such as stress, temperature, moisture, pH, electric or magnetic field, light or any chemical compounds. That means these are the materials, smart materials are the ones which can change its properties when they are exposed or externally treated with the environment, that is particularly with respect to temperature or pressure or pH or electric field, magnetic field, light, etc. So when they are subjected to these external stimuli or external environment, they can change in their properties, and that's why they are called as smart materials. For example, if, one of the examples I would like to give is something called as a shape memory alloy, which is a smart material. So shape memory alloy means when it is subjected to a particular temperature, they change its shape, and when the temperature is removed, and then that part is removed, when they are coming back to the normal, they come back to its original shape. That's why it's called as shape memory alloy. It remembers in the memory what it had the initial shape. So when you are trying to when the temperature, when it is brought in contact with the high temperature, it changes its shape, but then again it comes back to its original shape. So that is a property of that particular material. Similarly, you have some materials which will change its color when it is subjected to temperature or light. Okay, so these kind of materials, they are called as smart materials. And there are some other materials which are called as magnetostrictive or magnetostrictive materials, which when brought in contact with the magnetic field, they change their properties. Similarly, there is something called as MR fluids and ER fluids, that is magnetorheological fluid and electrorheological fluid. What happens is when you bring them closer to the magnetic field, they generally, the fluids which is in the liquid state will suddenly turn into solid, just because when you are bringing it close to the electric field. And when that field is taken away, they again come back to liquid field. So such type of materials are called as smart materials. Okay, so smart materials are the basis for many applications, including sensors and actuators, particularly as electrically actuated polymers. Okay, so there are two types. We don't have to go in deep to these topics, but it's there in the syllabus. We'll just have to go through what is smart material. You need to know what is smart materials and what are the types. So types of smart materials can be divided into type 1 and type 2 smart materials. So what does type 1 smart material mean? These materials exhibit change in their properties such as chemical, magnetic, mechanical, electrical or thermal with a response to change in external stimuli. The property change occurs as a result of internal energy input which alters the material's microstructure. So this is one difference between type 1 and type 2. So in type 1, what will happen is when you bring these materials to any external stimuli, as I told you, when you apply a pressure or induce light or temperature or any other external environmental matter. So what happens is they change their microstructure itself. There will be the microstructure of the material itself will change, and then with changes in the property, which will result in a change in property. So such type of materials are called as type 1 smart materials. Okay, examples is one of the example is given called as phototropics, which means that the material will change when they are exposed to light. So when light falls on that, the microstructure itself will change, the material itself will change. Second one, there is something called as type 2. This is also similar, but the only thing is that the microstructure will not change. Okay, the material exhibits change in its property with response to changes in external stimuli. The property change occurs as a result of internal state of the material, but the material remains same. Okay, so these type of material, they will change with respect to the external stimuli. When the pressure is applied or when the force is applied or when you are subjecting it to magnetic field, they will change in its properties, but their microstructure will not change. The material will remain same. So these type of materials are called as type 2 smart materials. Okay, so these are some of the examples of smart material. So you can see there is something called as a piezoelectric material. Anyways, we'll come to that. We have to study these things. What is piezoelectric material? What is shape memory alloy and all that. So you can see, just as an example, so when you induce stress or electric field to that, so for example, if you induce stress on this piezoelectric material, they will start giving electric charge. Okay, and the reverse is also possible. That means when you are giving electric field, they will be mechanically strained. So the properties you can see, when you are applying pressure to that, or when you are applying a stress on this material, they start producing voltage, electric charge. These type of materials are called as piezoelectric material. Same way, shape memory alloy, as I told you earlier. So when you supply heat to that or temperature, they change the shapes, and when the heat is removed, they come back to its original shape. So similarly, we have ER fluids, where you supply, when they come in contact with the electric field, they change in viscosity. That means they change in viscosity and they become thick, and as if they become solid. When that is removed, they again becomes liquid. So these are some of the examples. So magnetic restrictive materials and optical fibers, different examples are there. Okay, so just now I spoke about piezoelectric material. So what is a piezoelectric material? Piezoelectric material converts the electrical energy into mechanical energy and the reverse, vice versa. So what happens in this case is, when it is subjecting to certain stress or pressure or force, they start generating electrical signals. Okay, they produce electrical energy from that. And the reverse is also possible. If you supply electrical energy to that, it will be strained. It will convert electrical energy back into mechanical energy. When you supply mechanical force, it will convert that into electrical energy. And when you supply electrical energy, it will convert that into strain. Okay. So they offer a wide range of utility and can be used as actuators, okay, such as sensors and many other accelerometers and energy harvesters, since the charge generated from motion can be harvested and stored. Common application of piezoelectric materials are used for actuators in inkjet printer heads. Okay, so that means the main application of this would be that you are giving electrical signal which will be converted into mechanical motion. So when you are giving mechanical stress, that will be converted into electric energy. Okay, so if you want to have an actuator in the sense, for example, it's given in the last point. Actuator in the sense, something that moves from one point to another point to operate something. For example, a switch or something. So you have to give certain energy to that. That will move the actuator forward. Okay. So something has to move forward. So what will we do? If we use this piece of electric materials in such cases where you supply electrical energy, that will convert that electrical energy into motion. Okay. Okay, this is another one I've already spoke about, shape memory alloys. So the most commonly available, so first of all, I've told you what is shape memory alloy, isn't it? So shape memory alloy is a material which will change its shape when it is subjected to heat or temperature, and then it remembers that shape and it comes back to its original shape, and this can be repeated any number of times. It's not that only once. So whenever you subject it to a higher temperature, it will change shape and then it will return back to its original shape when the temperature is removed. Okay. So the most commonly available shape memory alloy is called nitinol. Okay, that's a material which is a shape memory alloy. The name of that is nitinol, and nitinol is a name that is given because of the materials used in that. So it's nickel and titanium. Okay, the material used in that is nickel and titanium, and it was actually developed by Naval Ordnance Laboratory, NOL. So nickel Ni, titanium Ti, and Naval Ordnance Laboratory, NOL. So they have clubbed together and then named it as nitinol. Nickel, titanium, and NOL. So smart memory alloys have the ability to change phase as a function of temperature, and that process generates a force of motion. So whenever you subject it to a temperature, it will change shape or move, and then again it will come back to its original shape. Okay. Some of the examples here, nitinol tubing is commonly used in medical field actually. So they're commonly used in stents and in super elastic needles, in surgeries, and the material is used in devices for reconnecting the intestine. And in the dentistry, the material is used for orthodontics for applying bracelets and wires that is connecting the teeth. So usually nitinol wires are used there. So there are still more advanced materials which can be actuated by magnetically or electrically, and which are still under development. So that means so many things have been happening in this field, shape memory alloys. So one such example we have given is about nitinol. There are several other shape memory alloys also. Next one is semiconductors, and I think most of you know this concept about semiconductors. Maybe smart materials are certain new things, and I don't know whether you have to study these things in physics as well. But definitely semiconductors, different types of semiconductors you would know. But anyways, we'll just go through that. So what is a semiconductor? So semiconductor material is an electrical conductive, which has an electrical conductivity value that is falling in between that of a conductor as well as insulator, right? So we have a conducting element and we have insulators. So semiconductors will fall in between them. Because conducting capacity is between, lesser than conductor, but definitely more than insulators. So their resistance decreases as their temperature increases, which is the behavior opposite to that of a metal. Their conducting properties may be altered in useful ways by the deliberate controlled introduction of impurities, what we call it as doping, into the crystal structure. So you know that. So the most common semiconductors that we use are silicon and germanium, right? So we can create different semiconductors, or different properties can be made by adding some impurities into that, which we call it as doping. So based on that, there will be different types of semiconductors. Which are those? One is the first category is called intrinsic semiconductors, and the second one is called the one I was talking about, adding impurities, extrinsic semiconductors. And under extrinsic semiconductors, you have again two types. Which are those? One is N-type semiconductor and other one is P-type semiconductor, right? So first one, what is intrinsic semiconductor? Intrinsic semiconductors are the one which do not have any other impurities present in them, right? They are also called as pure semiconductors or I semiconductors. So in that case, examples is silicon and germanium, which do not contain any other element added as impurities. Then the second category is called as extrinsic semiconductors or impure semiconductors, in which a doping element or a foreign element will be added into that, and then which, depending upon the valency, becomes either N-type or P-type, right? So we have N-type semiconductors and P-type semiconductors. So now what do you mean by an N-type semiconductors? As the name says, N means electrons, P means holes, right? So if you are saying it's an N-type semiconductor, that means it will have an extra electron. If you're saying it as a P-type semiconductor, then it is having deficiency of electron or one hole extra, right? So as you know, germanium or silicon will have 4 valence electrons in their outer shell. So if you are placing another atom there, that is, in the first case it can be phosphorus, so it will be a pentavalent compound. It is phosphorus is pentavalent. That means it has 5 valence electrons, but the 4 electrons will be forms covalent bonds with the remaining germanium atoms here, and there will be 1 extra electron. So that's why it is called as N-type semiconductor, right? Similarly, in the second sketch, that is the sketch below, it's a P-type semiconductor. So instead of using a pentavalent element, we are using a trivalent element. Okay, example is boron. So we have silicon atoms in the side, so it needs 4 valence electrons. So the boron will have only 3, so the 3 will form covalent bonds with the neighboring silicon atoms, but 1 will have the valence, a hole will be created. There won't be electron to fill that, so it becomes positive, right, or p-type semiconductor. Okay, so the last slide we have something called as insulators. Right, so what is an insulator? An electrical insulator is a material whose internal electric charges do not flow freely. Right, you know that. So conductor means they will conduct electricity very easily. In semiconductors means their conducting capacity lies between that of insulator and conductor, and they can be charged depending upon either by increasing the temperatures or by adding an impurities to that. But insulators are the material whose electric charge will not flow. So very little electric current will flow through it under the influence of an electric field. This contrasts with materials, other materials like semiconductors and conductors, which conduct electricity more easily. Right, so different materials which are insulators, for example wood, plastic, polymers, all these things do not conduct electricity, right? So these are named as insulators. The property that distinguishes an insulator is its resistivity. Insulators have very high resistivity than semiconductors or conductors. So insulators will not conduct electricity, so they will find their own applications, that is for insulating material. So we have wires, and you can see outside the wire we have the plastic coating that is given because they are insulating material, right? So this is about engineering materials. So we have studied a lot of them. There are so many things in this material, quite lengthy syllabus. Okay, so this completes only 1/4, I think. So one part of this. We still have to study the joining processes, that is soldering, brazing and welding, and after that we have to study about belt drives, and then we have to study about gate drives. So all together it will complete module 4. So here we finish the first part of that. So from next class onwards we will start with the next part of this. Alright, so this completes engineering materials. Hope you will go through these things and understand these points. Okay, thank you.